evening, everyone. Evolutionary Radio coming your way. This is going to be episode 338. We're continuing our SARMS compound episodes. Stevesmi here and Rick in the Bronx. How's it going, buddy?
Hey, what's up, Steve? What's up, guys? How's everybody doing out there?
All right, guys. So we're going to talk about Ostarine in this episode. We had a few episodes off. We kind of got derailed a little bit from our SARMS, but we're back on schedule now. And we're going to do the evens. We're going to do SARMS for the evens. We're going to talk about each SARM for the even episodes, and then Q&As for the odd episodes. If you have any questions about SARMS, definitely hit us up. Let us know, and we'll talk about it. If you have any Q&As you want, hit us up. We'll talk about those on the odd numbers. So for this one, number 338, Rick, we're going to talk about one of the most popular SARMs out there, Ostarine. So basically Ostarine, it's known as enobosarm and also MK2866, not to be confused with Nutrabol, which is another MK, but this is MK2866 Ostarine. It was developed by GTX for the prevention and treatment of muscle wasting. And the hope was that it would be prescribed for the prevention of, just like all SARMs, selective androgen receptor modulators. This one's a little different. This one's still in clinical testing. This one, it just seems like every year or two, Rick, they keep switching it. They keep finding stuff that this does, that the Ostarine does, and it has a lot of promise. But just like all these SARMs and just like every performance-enhancing drug out there, athletes kind of got a hold of it and now, realize that this has benefits to the athlete. And that's why it's used by so many athletes now. Probably the most popular SARM out there. I hate to say that because it just seems like every SARM we talk about on this podcast, it's like, oh, it's the most popular SARM. But for real, this is actually, of the true SARMs, this is a real
SARM. It's a real SARM.
Exactly. It's a real SARM. Unlike GW, which we talked about last time we talked about on the SARMs topic. This is actually a SARM, actual selective androgen receptor modulator. So the cool thing about Ostarine is it's cheap. It's got virtually no side effects. So we're going to talk all about that in this show. So this is going to be a really, really good show to kind of guide you on how to best use Ostarine for all of its benefits with health and fitness. So I'm going to bring in Rick. Rick's going to talk about the history and how this Ostarine ever came around.
The history of Ostarine goes all the way back to the mid-90s when GTX Corporation was founded in Tennessee. And they basically licensed the rights to Ostarine and enobosarm from the University of Tennessee Research Foundation. They were the ones that developed the SARM, and compounds were rented by some of the doctors there. And I think also it mentions here, because I took some notes from Wikipedia, that some researchers from Ohio State University and the University of Tennessee worked together on this. And then the pharmaceutical company came along and licensed it. Like Steve said, it's been in phase 2 trials a couple of times for a couple of different things. It made it to phase 3 trials for basically muscle wasting was the first use that it went into trials for. And then it went into stress urinary incontinency in women. And that also didn't pan out. So even though it's been in phase 2 and phase 3 trials, hasn't been approved as a medication for anything. But like Steve said, athletes got a hold of it. In 2018, UFC fighter Sean O'Malley tested positive for Ostarine. And then again in May 2019, he was also tested positive for Ostarine. So already athletes have been caught using it recently. And also in July 2019, National Football League player Taylor Lewin also failed a drug test for Ostarine. So it's been used in sports quite a lot already. Later in the podcast, I'll talk about some of my own use with it and what I've used it for. But it's been around since the early 2000s, late 90s, it seems like, and it's got some uses, but it hasn't been approved for anything quite yet.
So how does it work? How do SARMs work? Ostarine is no different than any other SARM. Basically, the androgen receptors, the SARMs work by altering the androgen receptor expression of genes, and they increase protein synthesis that helps build muscle.
And one thing to clarify, guys, when you hear us on the podcast talk about androgen receptors, we just say androgen receptors to make it real simple for everybody. But there are different types of androgen receptors, and the abundance of these different types is different depending on which cells they're on. So there's some androgen receptors that are more abundant in your bones, in the cells that make up the bones, and the other types of androgen receptors that are more abundant in your muscle cells. So when it comes to SARMs, they're very selective. They've gotten it down to where these SARMs now they have more affinity to some of these receptors that are maybe on the bone structure in the case of Ostarine, as opposed as much to the receptors that are on the muscle cells. So just to throw that in there, guys, there are different types of androgen receptors, but you'll always hear on the podcast us say androgen receptors, because it just makes it simpler for everybody. We're trying to just share with everybody practical use, not trying to get everybody into green chemistry here, but just something to clarify as we go forward in the rest of the podcast.
So the nice thing about using Ostarine is that it's not going to mess around with your prostate. It's not going to mess around with your testosterone levels, your HPTA, the way anabolic steroids do. So you'll get the mild benefits of lean muscle mass, maybe some fat loss, some a mild boost in endurance, mild boost in recovery, without the nasty side effects that are from anabolic steroids, like getting shut down. So that's the way these SARMs actually work, because they're selective, like Rick was explaining. So with Ostarine in particular, from a medical standpoint, it was designed mostly for cancer patients who were dealing with muscle wasting. That helps them reverse muscle wasting without side effects of pharmaceutical drugs or anabolic steroid use. So that makes it much more abundant to be used by many more different people. In the old days, when they had muscle wasting diseases, they would have to give people anabolic steroids and hormones, and they would get some really, really bad side effects. So it's kind of pointless to give someone all these horrible side effects to solve one thing. So they've kind of since then transitioned away from using anabolic steroids and drugs, pharmaceutical drugs, which also have some side effects. So if they can find a way to kind of get this approved, it could be a really, really good thing for a lot of people. So as for us, for athletes, Rick was mentioning a lot of guys like, Taylor Lewan, who's a left tackle for Tennessee Titans, one of the best left tackles in the NFL. He's even using it because he knows that this shit helps you recover, and this shit helps with all kinds of good things as athletes. So we're kind of still messing around with Ostarine at this time, and a lot of people are finding, wow, this stuff really, really works good. Rick, you wanted to jump in? Yeah. So, let's kind of get into the best way, some of the benefits of Ostarine. So let's say you want to put on some lean muscle gains. That's first and foremost, what we want. Most people use these SARMs for that reason, right? You want to gain good, clean, lean muscle. So you're not going to gain anything like anabolic steroids, because these SARMs and Ostarine, it's not going to fill your muscles up with water. So you're not going to get that bloated look. So you can put in a few pounds of good, clean muscle gains over an 8-week cycle of Ostarine versus hopping on steroids and putting 10, 15 pounds of sloppy muscle gains. And that you're just going to lose anyway when you come off, because all that water is just going to shed away. So that's one of the benefits of using it. But if you want to just like build a bunch of strength and you want to just put on like 10, 15, 20 pounds fast, Ostarine isn't for you. But if you want to put on good clean weight, not throw off your health parameters and not castrate your prostate in the process, Ostarine is a good option for you if you want to gain lean muscle mass. Now, when it comes to cutting, stacking Ostarine with GW is a great cutter because Ostarine doesn't add fat to your body, and the GW will cut fat. So if you throw in Ostarine, you'll be able to eat in a deficit and not worry about losing muscle in the process. It's going to hold your muscle and help you cut fat at the same time. So that's where Ostarine really works well. So the average dosage in either situation, 25 milligrams. Now, some people go half that, around 20.5. If like women sometimes will go 12.5 instead of 25. Or if you're in a situation where you're trying to save money, you can go 12.5. And some people go to 50. I would say though 80% of guys, including when I used it, stuck to the 25 milligrams. Recomping where you're gaining muscle and losing fat at the same time, you can do that on Ostarine. If you've got your diet and you're training on point, you can definitely do it on Ostarine much more effectively than using anabolic steroids. Some of the other things that it does is injury prevention. So I'm going to bring in Rick on this. Rick, you had mentioned before that you used it and it helped you with some of your injuries. Talk about that.
Yeah, it makes everything feel really nice. Joints, tendons, everything. Just you can feel the difference while on it. My personal experience, I remember I was doing some kneeing drills and throwing a knee. I heard it. That's when I know it's bad. I heard my hamstring tear, and it's a nice long tear. My father, who's been a soccer player his whole life, and he understands muscle tears. He told me he could, to put his fingers right along the tear. He could feel it tactile wise, and Ostarine helped me recover and get back to training. And just, a week or so, I was back in there. An injury that would normally take maybe 3-4 times as long. I have another buddy of mine who's a fighter, and during a fight, he got slammed the wrong way, which shattered shattered his vertebra, and he was in bed for about 6 months almost. I want to say it took him about to start walking again, but doctors say he might never ever walk right, and if he did, it might take him a couple of years. And he took Ostarine about a good, I would say, about 4 months out of those 6 he was on Ostarine, and he's back to training, and he fought again and won after this injury. So I'm going to credit those two really close personal experiences with Ostarine to the healing powers that it has. I don't know if it did much for me as far as muscle gains. I know women have reported some great anabolic effects from it, but damn, is it good for healing injuries. Like Steve said, for preventing them, damn, is it good for preventing injuries. You've got some serious medication there when it comes to just keeping your frame, keeping your skeleton in top shape. So it's a great product for that. Yeah, again, personally, not much for muscle gains, at least not over testosterone. But I think for most newbies, and I think definitely for women, you're going to find Ostarine to be a suitable choice for a cycle.
Yeah, and that might be why some of these guys were using it in the pros. And it's one of the unintended consequences, guys, of using these compounds. And that's why the things, when they're experimenting with it, if they find out, hey, this cures injuries, they're not going to approve it. You know, they don't want stuff to cure. They want stuff to treat. There's a difference. So it's not me being like a conspiracy theorist or anything, but they don't want athletes getting a hold of this stuff. If they think that most people are going to use this product, are athletes, they don't want to approve it. They'll only approve it if it's going to be used medically. So if it's going to be more effective than another drug, there's a chance they'll approve it. But if it's going to be used by athletes, it's not going to be approved. So I'll predict they're not going to approve it, you know? So it's going to be available, you know, through the underground world, through research chemicals, stuff like that. And that's why you see it banned. It's banned because it works. So there's something about it when they developed it that helps with joints and tendons and ligaments.
You know, it's a product that you can legitimately have someone take that doesn't train, that just has a regular old injury. Maybe an older person that's having trouble healing broken bones. Maybe an athlete that wants to get back into training and to swing a lot faster. It's really a really good product for, you know, even people that have never used steroids, that are not enhancing, maybe even people that don't work out, just as a way to heal some of these bone injuries a lot faster. I think it has a lot of merit. Don't you agree, Steve?
Yeah, and we're seeing that with guys using it. It's a really good addition to use in a steroid cycle, because on a steroid cycle, we tend to, you know, hammer our soft tissues a lot. So you're seeing a trend of guys, they'll throw an Ostarine on cycle, and the Ostarine isn't really going to do anything from a performance standpoint so much, because you're running all these anabolic steroids. But if it can help you heal a little quicker, if it can help you with your joints, with your tendons, with your ligaments, it's probably going to be worth it to throw it in at 25 milligrams a day on your 12-week normal anabolic cycle, because it does nothing but benefit you in that situation. So we're seeing a trend of guys doing that on cycle. So you can stack it by itself. You can just run it by itself. 25 milligrams. Some guys run it up to 50 milligrams. Females can run it. You can stack it with other SARMs. Popular stack is stacking with GW if you want to cut, like I said earlier. You can stack it with something like RAD or LGD or S23 if you want to bulk. It'll help you. It'll help you with that. And you can stack it in a steroid cycle as well. And another area, Rick, where it seems to also do well is PCT. Because if you run it at 25 milligrams or less for 4 weeks or less, we've seen enough evidence to say that it actually will not suppress you. So you could throw it into PCT for a little bit, and it'll help you keep your gains from your cycle. So it's got a lot of very versatile, there's a lot of versatile ways that you can use it where it can benefit you across the board. So it's a really, really cool one that a lot of guys, that's why it's so popular. A lot of guys like to use it on cycle, PCT, off cycle, etc. So yeah, I mean, it's there's all kinds of ways to do it. I'm not really sure if there is a bad way to use it. You don't want to use it off cycle for a long period of time or at too high a dosage, then it can start being suppressive. So yeah,
if it wasn't that good at healing injuries and preventing them, I'd say, hey, you know, it's no need to use it. You're a steroid user. We've got testosterone. We've got EQ. We've got Anabol. Let's use some of that instead. But since it has that additional, that injury healing, bone healing aspect of it, it's something, you know, something not bad to run maybe a month or two out of the year, just cause, especially when you get up in age like us, 40, maybe not the worst idea. Again, these SARMs are new. We don't know what they're going to do down the line. We don't know what's going to happen later on. But this one's gotten up to at least phase 2 and phase 3. It's been tested on humans already, so we can say that much about it. But yeah, it has that place. Now, newbies, In women, it's a great product that you can buy over the counter with your credit card, and it will have some effects. It's some of the strongest anabolic muscle builders you can get over the counter with your credit card. Is it legal for those companies to be selling it to you in capsules? Maybe not, but that's kind of on them. If you buy it, you're kind of not breaking the law. You're just buying it, right? And it's not scheduled. You can possess it and you can carry it around. Can those companies sell it to you? Eh, that's on them. But still, again, you've got a good anabolic that works. At least as of today, 2020, it is over the counter and the injury healing. I mean, now it will suppress you. You will need to PCT with it. You will need to take HC Generate with it. Even though it doesn't convert into estrogen and cause suppression that way, I'm saying it will compete with your natural testosterone for androgen receptors. And so will displace some of your natural testosterone from attaching to receptors, leaving more free testosterone in your system for your aromatase enzyme to then aromatize into estrogen, raising your estrogen, then creating the loop for your pituitary gland to produce less LH and FSH. It's kind of how it works, guys. So in that regard, it itself, no mechanisms for suppression, but it displacing, competing with your own testosterone for androgen receptors, creating more free test. That in itself can cause some suppression. So and to generate ES with it, it's incredible. Do you need an anti-estrogen with it? Maybe not. I haven't heard too many guys need anti-estrogens with it. A couple maybe, but they could have had estrogen issues maybe to begin with anyway, natural. But it'll bump your estrogen up enough to start causing some suppression, but maybe not enough for you to have gynecomastia. What do you think, Steve?
We haven't seen any effort, any evidence of that. So really, if used properly, your side effects are not going to be good. Here's the thing. From a pharmaceutical standpoint, the dosage is like 3 milligrams a day. So we use it as a performance enhancer. This is another reason why it's not going to be approved, because they don't like this. They don't like how athletes take something that's supposed to be ran at 3 milligrams a day, and we run it at 25 or 50 milligrams a day. So we run it at 10 or 20 times the dosage, the therapeutic dosage. We run at those dosages because of the performance benefits that we get. So if you're running something 10, 20 times what it's supposed to be ran at, yeah, you're going to have some side effects, but the side effects are going to be way, way less than anabolic steroids. So, you might have a little liver values might get thrown off a little bit. Cholesterol values might get thrown off a little bit. Use your N2 guard with it, and it won't be a problem. And then things will obviously normalize after. So I don't recommend running it more than 12 weeks ever. If you're running it as part of your cycle, that's fine, but don't exceed 12 weeks. And I don't recommend using it off cycle more than 4 weeks, like I said earlier. And you shouldn't have an issue with side effects at all. I think the people who have the true side effects from something like Ostarine, they're not really using Ostarine. Or there's a coincidence going on, maybe a rebound effect from a prior cycle or something like that. But we see Ostarine faked a lot. And it's faked a lot with pro-hormones or stimulants or something like that. And then you start getting side effects, but it's not really the Ostarine that you were taking all along.
And one thing to understand about Ostarine, and maybe a big difference with some of the other SARMs, these compounds that have been lumped into the SARMs category, is Ostarine has made it all the way to phase 3 testing. This stuff's got to get past, all these compounds have to get past the testing on mice, the toxicity testing on mice. This is where something like GW was abandoned, because when they gave a ton of it to mice, mice developed cancer. And so it never made it into trials in humans. Ostarine, they already gave a ton of it to mice, didn't cause the same kind of reaction that GW did. And so it's then ethical to move it forward to the other phases, right? And then start giving it to people and see what it does. And then to make it past those phases. Now it's not about it being safe. Now, can it do what the application says it's supposed to do? And that's where it's falling short. They've tried to release it as something for to combat muscle wasting disease. Didn't cut it as that. They did. There's a urinary incontinency thing for women. Didn't show its effect on that. But it's in those human trials because it made it past the lab mice, and it didn't kill the lab mice at high dosing the way that GW did. GW hasn't been tested on humans as far as we know. Is that correct, Steve? Just all anecdotal with meatheads, what us meatheads have been doing with it?
No, I saw a study out of Australia on GW, actually. They did it on athletes for 6 months. So it has
okay,
been,
but this was a study straight done on athletes, not a study to get it approved as a medication. They
No.
They did a study on just basically people taking it illegal. Okay, got it. Okay.
So one of the, let's go over some questions that guys have. Typical question is, how often do I dose my Ostarine? I've seen the numbers. I mean, the consensus is it has about a 24-hour half-life. So dosing it once a day is fine, completely fine. And some of the other questions, what are some other questions, Rick, that we usually get on the forums about Ostarine? A lot of people want to know, like, what do they want to know on Ostarine? Do they want to know, how about, like, what
is stack with? What is stacks well with? We just said it goes well with pretty much everything.
Well, we didn't discuss, actually, let's say a healing stack. If you want to do a healing stack, give me a healing stack with some supplements and stuff.
Ostarine and N2 Joint RX. We developed N2 Joint RX when Ostarine was hot on the market to take along with it. Because a lot of guys, all of you guys that buy my products, buy from needtobuildmuscle.com, you're all on steroids and you're all on TRT. So I don't really make products that is meant to have the same effects as steroids or TRT. My products are meant to go along with whatever guys are taking that are enhancing. That's where I found my niche, and working with you guys, helping you with all of your cycles, having this podcast for you guys. So N2 Joint RX is specifically developed to work alongside Ostarine. Ostarine will get in there and will create that signal to repair everything. It'll get in there and it'll actually make your cells want to repair themselves. Now, the N2 Joint RX is providing all of the building blocks. It's providing all the stuff that this stuff is made of. Everything from chondroitin, glucosamine to coral calcium, it's all in there. So Ostarine, along with the N2 Joint RX, you're putting in the compound that's going to stimulate all of those cells to heal, and then you're giving it all of the building blocks. Building blocks that are not quite easy to get with your diet. Not just the building blocks, but you also get some minerals and vitamins that are completely necessary that can't be deficient if you want to have a good bone and joint health. So if you're talking about healing, like a healing stack, I would say Ostarine, N2 Joint RX. There are a couple of peptides, which we need to get more into the peptides as the show goes on, that can help you heal, and maybe a little bit of DECA. If you wanted to do them all, if you want to do a SARM, a supplement, a steroid, and an actual peptide all around healing, you could do N2 Joint RX, Ostarine, DECA with testosterone. You don't want to get DECA dick. You want to have that test in there with the DECA. BPC 157, body protective compound.
Yeah, I've used that before. Yeah, I've used that peptide before. You inject it into the injury, so I've used it. Yeah.
BPC. What was your experience with it?
I don't think I used it long enough to get the most out of it. It was, but I would say the TB 500 that I used definitely gave me recovery, like a quicker recovery.
And BPC 157. So if we're talking about injury healing and an injury healing stack, I think dry fasting for extended periods, days, yoga, Ostarine, N2 Joint RX stack, a little bit of DECA testosterone, you had to do that. Peptide stack, BPC 157, and also a TB 500. You could research those. Those are two peptides for healing. I mean, you're pretty good to go. What else do you suggest, Steve?
Those are all good options. Yeah.
Yeah. If you're a female and you're looking at something to help you build some muscle mass without growing a mustache, without thickening your voice, then you could stack Ostarine with Bridge, my Bridge product, which men use Bridge when they're off steroids to continue to make progress and maintain their gains and give them drive. You could take the Ostarine with Bridge. I don't know if I would take Ostarine with Anavar if I'm a female. I guess you could. Just be careful with the side effects. That's a lot of stuff hitting your androgen receptors. Anavar and Ostarine should work for a female. Dosing you have to be careful with it. Make sure the dosing doesn't get too high, or then you'll start to have some side effects. And for newbies also, Ostarine and Anavar, if you're a newbie cycle, but HC generate ES and 2 generate you need with it for post cycle, because it will be somewhat suppressive, especially those two together. What else do you think, Steve? Any more suggestions?
Yeah, the other one is Nutribol. And that one is an HGH secretog. So that one is
Nutribol.
also
Peptide.
No. It's sold as a SARM. It's not a SARM, but it's sold as a SARM.
Sold as a SARM.
Yeah.
It's another one. Well, Nutribol. Okay. MK, the one you take at night.
Yeah, usually, yeah. It gives you, a strong hunger. It gives you a lot of hunger increase.
Pulse of HGH.
And recovery. It's supposed to be really good for recovery and healing as well. I mean, I used it before for my injuries. I just couldn't take it anymore because of the hunger. But we're going to talk about Nutribol on a future podcast coming up and talk to you all about it. But the hunger, oh my gosh, the hunger on it was ridiculous when I took it. I couldn't take it. So those are all really good options for healing. And then, of course, the number one way, Rick, is stop pounding your body. We get a lot of people asking questions. They want to take Ostarine. That's great. You want to take Ostarine. You want to take N2 Joint RX. But you also have to just lay off the weights for a little bit, guys. I used to be anti-vacation and anti-taking a break from the gym and all that stuff. And look where it led me, So it led me to being injured. More and more injuries. So you got to take a break. And it's okay to take a break. I used to be against it. It's okay to take a vacation. I used to be against vacations. I used to make fun of people who took vacations. But wow, I took a vacation back in February and I came back and wow, I was refreshed. It really makes a difference. The same thing with your body, taking a break. So why don't you take a break?
You probably lift pretty heavy, right, Steve?
Well, that was the thing. I was lifting so heavy and I never took time off or anything, but even your brain, like working, doing a job and not taking a vacation just wears down on you. That's why a lot of people, who work in jobs, the job actually pays you to go on vacation because the company knows that we'll have more efficient workers when they come back to work. And we want you to be efficient as athletes in fitness as well. So if you're injured, take a break, take the Ostarine and you can stack some of the other stuff we suggested with the Ostarine, and that will help you heal and recover. But if you take the Ostarine and you keep pounding in the gym, you're not gonna get healed up. I mean, I can guarantee that. So, and if you do, it's luck. You're just lucky. So you want to do it right.
If you're in the gym, not throwing a ton of weight around, minding your rep speed. Make sure you're not just blasting it out, minding your technique, and you have a good spotter. You really, you shouldn't be getting injured out there. Not very often. If you're not like lifting a ton of weight, like competitive wise, or like, because these power lifters, all you guys that power lift, Steve, you get these injuries. But
yeah. But also it's about maintenance. We talk about on this podcast about maintaining your
one of the reasons I stepped back and over the years I've stepped back more and more from doing a lot of heavy rolling in jiu-jitsu and sparring and all these things is because that's when I really used to get injured, was doing mixed martial arts. And I like injured like I broke my nose, I hurt my shoulders, hurt my leg. There was, when you're in that lifestyle, when you're going to the dojo 3-4 times a week, you just get used to having something bothering you all the time, and you just work around it. But it's kind of like, if my arm hurts, or if my knee is not feeling good, I'm okay to go to jujitsu, go to dojo, and get it done. Go get some boxing done. Go get some kickboxing done. Even it just feels like I could just adjust. Now, if I'm at the gym and my knees for not feeling good, my shoulders not feeling great, I don't feel like doing anything, and I don't feel like getting under the squat rack with a knee that doesn't feel good. So the gym has always been something I can do, and I do like really low. I do low weights, good slow range of motion. I'm sorry, good slow rep speed, really good technique, and I'm kind of loving it now. Just I haven't, because of COVID, nothing's been open, and it's been months since I've been able to roll, or even hit the heavy bag, or spar, or do anything. Just been lifting weights, and man, does everything feel nice, man. No injuries, no nothing. I used to always have something, like there was always something that hurt, that was pulled, that was spasmed. And these last 6 months, without going live with anybody, my body's feeling really, really good, bro. It's really, really nice. So now, once things begin to open up, I'm think I'm gonna reassess how hard and the way I go at sparring and at rolling, because it's definitely feeling different now.
All right, guys. So that's all stream for you. I think we covered everything. Yep. So we'll have another SARMS episode again. The even numbers going forward. We'll have another SARM, and then check out our Q&As as the odd one for Stevesmi and Rick as another episode of Evolutionary Radio. We'll talk to you guys next week. Have a good one.
Have a good one, Steve. Have a good one, guys. Take care, Steve.
Later.
All right. Talk to you more.
All right. Guys, this is the required legal disclaimer. We are only sharing our experience from years of steroid use. We are not doctors, and none of what we say should be regarded as medical advice. Always check with your doctor before taking any drugs or starting any training program.